Welcome to the Full FX Unfiltered. My name is Colin Lambert. I'm publisher of the Full FX, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Tim Cartledge, who's Chief Data Officer of Tradefeedr. Tim, welcome to the Unfiltered series.
Good to be here, Colin.
I wanted to talk to you about algos in particular. Subject we're both quite passionate about. I think we've had a few interesting conversations over the years on it. There's a lot of noise around algos, and everyone says they've got the best algos, but it seems to me there hasn't really been a quantitative way to actually evaluate these things until we spoke about a month ago. So you've launched the analytics algos packages. What does it involve?
So perhaps we'll talk about the pre-trade
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start. And you raise a good question about how do you actually verify, monitor, predict the performance of algos, because they are tricky beasts to be able to evaluate. Without getting too mathsy, if you're looking to get a prediction that's accurate to say 1/10 of a basis point on something that's got a lot of market risk attached to it, say 10 basis points of market risk, then that's a ratio of 100 to 1 of the risk to the thing you're trying to measure. Well, that means you need 10,000 orders to be able to measure that.
Yeah.
And that's fine in some currency pairs at some times. But in all currency pairs, all times of day, all market conditions, all sizes, different volatilities, then you haven't got 10,000 runs. Nobody has of all those different things, 50 currency pairs or whatever. So it's a tricky problem to be able to simplify algo performance, get that noise out, and be able to find a way of comparing like with like, and be able to get the accuracy around prediction from what is a very noisy data set. But we think we've done that. So we can now forecast with a high degree of accuracy what we expect, either algos in general, liquidity-seeking algos in particular, ones that can just run on their own after on their own devices. We can predict with a high degree of accuracy how long they're going to take, what they're going to cost. We can do that in aggregate. We can do that for sets of algos, so the fastest algos or the slower algos. Or we can do that for individual algos as well.
What sort of thing? What sort of analysis do you use to compare? Because again, to come back to the original point, everyone has a good TCO report. I don't think anyone's ever had a bad TCO report from anyone. If you extend it to the algos, what sort of criteria are you comparing with the performance? So
it's the primary. The primary number we can create, we call it the Tradefeedr global algo forecast. So that's based off our entire data set of liquidity-seeking algos, and that for any currency pair, any time of day, will establish market conditions that are prevailing at that time, and will generate an expected duration, an expected cost, an expected risk. Now that's a mid value, if you like, of the expected performance of all the algos that we've got in the database. So that's something you can compare under or over to.
And so that's basically what you're actually projecting to the users.
Correct.
Is an under or
Correct.
over.
So previously, I think the algo analysis world was very much about what did it do? How much spread did it pay? How aggressive was it? Did the market revert afterwards? And all that's really useful. Because especially if you're trying to tune an algorithm, that's all really useful. But the thing that's completely missing is, did it do better than or worse than average? Because there's no concept of average. Well, there is now.
We're getting very close to the B word, aren't we? We can't go down the benchmark route.
It's not a benchmark.
No, exactly, and that's the thing. I think that's the important aspect of it, isn't it? What you're saying is this is a projection of an average rather than a benchmark.
Correct. So it starts at it starts with the pre-trade. So we can generate our forecasts for performance risk, etc. But that then rolls into the post-trade. The same number works in the past, and the post-trade number is what the pre-trade number would have been at that time in
Yes.
those market conditions.
Yeah.
So it's a joined up process that you've got a way of choosing algos and then a way of verifying that was the correct choice in post-trade that uses the same methodology as pre-trade.
And how do you capture, for instance, those algos? I mean, one of the interesting areas of algos over the years has been the number of parameters that people can stick on it. Mm-hmm. It's biblical, the number of parameters some people put on there, and you think, how do they work on that? So, I mean, how do you sort of account for the fact that, someone's going to go, okay, I want this done in 3 minutes, I want this done in 3 hours, different speeds, just to name one parameter.
And you're right. There's a whole universe of controls, and the more controls you have, the more noise you're introducing into the process, and it makes the science a little bit harder. But there's two sides to this. One is, how do you create the predictions? And the predictions are based off liquidity-seeking algos, so ones that don't have a ton of controls on them. It's really, you select the algo and it does its thing. Where there's limit orders as part of the process, we strip those out. So if there's manual intervention, then we split the P&L into what goes to the human and what goes to the machine, and we're comparing machine performance here. So for actually creating the predictions, you need clean algos that haven't had tons of human overlay and parameters on them. That's what you want to create the predictions, the forecasts. But to compare things to the forecast, well, you can compare anything. You can compare a voice trade, you can compare a TWAP, you can compare the most complex and exotic algo in the world against it. But knowing whether it was better or worse than this whole universe of liquidity-seeking algos is a useful thing to know. If having all these parameters is a good thing, then you should be able to beat.
But that's in certain market conditions.
Correct. Correct, but it will compare. I mean, the thing you use in real life was done in a certain set of market conditions, and then the forecasts that we compare it to are based on the market conditions of that time. So
it's a multi-factor, calculation, obviously, but also presentation. So, which I think is an interesting thing for me. Obviously, now you have APIs. This is API'd pre and post trade, but to me, I'm fascinated by the visualization and the importance of the value of that. I mean, are you finding clients like the visualization tools? Because a big part of our world is justification for why did you select that algo, for instance?
So 100%. I think people like to know that there's a degree of complexity around the whole thing. Why should we believe you when you say these things? But in the end, people are time poor. They just want a quick. A quick result. Not everyone's excited about TCA as we are, and so having neat visualizations is so important. And the thing the clients love, that they say is like the favorite bit of the offering, is the graph of the efficient frontier, if you like, of expected cost against duration, and as it curves up from risk transfer at 0 time up to something closer to zero infinity, and to have to have that curve formed from the Tradefeedr forecasts, because we've got a fast one, we've got a global one, we've got a slow one, so you can put a curve through it, and then. Where we've got the LPs that want to show our calculations of their forecasted performance out, they're overlaid on top. So you've got as it stands, clients are looking at a graph with 13 points on it at different aggressions. Different confidence intervals, different costs, and you can actually see the landscape of those algos in a really digestible form. And it's one of the interesting things is there's no unification of algo stuff. You can have one LP who's got fast, medium, slow, another LP that's got fast, medium, slow, and they don't overlap. The fast one on one, from one LP is nowhere near the slow one from another LP. So the words don't mean anything.
It's all relative.
It's all relative. So it's normalizing all of that.
Is this an algo wheel by another name?
So depends what you mean by an algo wheel. So you don't have to answer that. If we're saying is this a black box that is just going to vomit forth the algo that you should choose? No, because that's not the best way of choosing algos.
Yeah.
If it's is the kit of parts live that a client could build the pre-trade algo selection tool that's right for them? Yes, that's now live.
Right.
So it's really just what do we mean by algo wheel? Are the tools there to intelligently choose algos that are appropriate for risk conditions, risk appetite, and the goals of the portfolio? So, they're all there, but it isn't a winner takes all.
No,
it isn't a winner takes all.
And there's certainly none of this is their turn.
And there's certainly none of that. No. We're not here to get in the way of the LPs and the clients, or to trying to disintermediate anyone. We're trying to just provide information, the tools. But the tools are there that the clients can now build that stuff. Especially the APIs. They can into their pre-trade systems and order staging and whatever. You can code right into it now, and it'll work.
I mean, I guess the other thing I'd want to talk to you about was the pre-trade. Obviously, is the bit I find the most fascinating. But the post-trade analytics still have a huge value in this world, don't they? I mean, I guess one of the things I would say is that I'm not sure scrutiny of trades has ever been as high as it is now. Firms on the buy side that maybe 3 years ago were never asked about their choice of algo or choice of execution style are now being asked the question, which I guess feeds, this makes a good timing for Tradefeedr, which is great for you guys. But I mean, how are the sort of post-trade analytics being used by your clients?
So they're used in two ways. So we've been doing algo analytics for a long time. This isn't. This is we've just started. So it's the existing use of Algo Analytics, just to say very much about the what happened. If you wanted to get into the micro of child order placement and spread paid and market impact and reversion, and if you'd only done one trade and you wanted to get into the details about whether it was what happened,
it was probably great.
Then we've got all of that in abundance. Compared to TWAP execution, etc., etc., etc. The difference here is, really, was the choice to do an algo at all a good one?
Yep.
Was your performance better or worse than average that could be expected from, the average client using algos?
Yeah.
So that's more absolute. Where are you relative to your peers in the industry? Are you doing better or worse than average? That's different, and that's new. So the pre-trade feeds straight into the post-trade. And
I guess vice versa.
And it's the same model, just with a different time. It doesn't care about its now. The only thing about now is it's a market condition.
Okay. Yeah.
So it works in the past as well.
So there's two uses, I guess.
Yes. And so the post trade that we have, the clients are using, it's live. You can look back over your portfolio of trades. You can see whether you did better or worse than average. It will give statistical measures of confidence around whether there's any part of your portfolio that has underperformed. Yep. If there is a part that's underperformed, you can just select it and get the same alternatives. It's like pre-trade for the past.
Yes.
You get the alternatives that would have been available at the time and what the expected performance was then. And you can reason about if you do want to rotate someone in or out or try something new, you've then got alternatives there. Yeah. So it's easier, I suppose. The way that the benefit for clients is you haven't got pre-trade. We've got to type everything in. Yeah. You can just look every 3 months. Yeah. I expect the next 3 months to be the sort of trades I did in the last 3 months. Yeah. What shall I rotate out of the panel? Who shall I rotate in?
Yeah. But if they are different trades, you can still put them in. Yeah, because you say, okay, I've never traded $ZAR, but I've now got to do $ZAR.
Then you use the pre-trade.
Yeah.
And then when it goes into post-trade, it should all match up.
I mean, obviously, we're live with the Algos, and Algos is still very much in FX terms of spot business. Mm-hmm. I guess, to close out, do you see the potential as NDF Algos grow, as potentially Algos come into swaps, Do you see the potential for the same sort of service there?
So NDFs, absolutely. I mean, the methodology we have is kind of currency pair agnostic. It's just it doesn't. You know, it's just how does this thing trade?
Yes.
So we'll be able to slot NDFs into that framework.
Yeah.
You know, very easily. That's the very obvious next step. The swap side of things, yes, similar. Obviously, algos and swaps aren't so you know,
and
so big.
The data's a challenge.
Yes, and it's a bit more. You know, it's got another dimension in it, so it's a little bit more fiddly. But so I think the route will be NDFs next. But then as Tradefeedr is moving into futures and equities next. So you know, so I think we can wait and see with swaps. But I think I would like to take our approach into equities and futures.
But it is effectively asset class agnostic.
It's asset class agnostic. Yeah.
Well, it strikes me, Tim, that it's the sort of thing that only a former FX options trader could come up with, rather than the former spot trader. Thanks for joining me today. Fascinating as always to talk to you.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back again soon.